you know what this is? Do you think there's any connection between this, say, and an iPhone or iPad? Or hey, maybe even iTunes. This is an LP, or long playing record. Back in the days, say in the 1960s, when you put this on this, you got a sound that was so incredible and so cool, you really felt that you were in the studio with the musicians. Back in the day, it was a must-have item. Do you have one? I'm very fortunate that my guest on Armchair Traveler today is a gentleman who has tons of these. So come with me and let's talk about the incredible, amazing world of vinyl. We're talking with Chuck Klaus, the curator of the Grand Emporium, I was going to say museum, but whatever, in San Pedro. First of all, we're surrounded by a huge collection of CDs and records and vinyl. Tell our viewers a little bit about vinyl. I mean, is vinyl still popular? And if it is, why is it?
Vinyl is incredibly popular these days, and what's happening is that young people seem to be going back to it as a means of getting closer in touch with music. I think there might be something in the fact that we don't deal with the physical artifact anymore in a lot of ways when we're downloading things, when we're listening to things on computer or iPad. With vinyl, you've got the artifact in front of you, you've got notes, you've got a large representation of the artistic design of the record cover, as well as what many people feel is a warmer source of the music, a more sort of human approach to the art of listening. I'm probably up to about 5,000 or 6,000 records here.
Wait a minute, thousands?
Yeah, 5,000 or 6,000 records and maybe about 4,000 CDs. And we also do books at the Grand Emporium too, so we've got a few thousand of those stashed around and a few hundred autographs and DVDs and laser discs and videotapes. And we're champions of the lost format, I guess.
You know, I mentioned in my opening the sound of LPs. What is there something special about that? How is the technology so different back then than what it is today?
Well, I don't want to be a member of the Flat Earth Society and deny that there's no progress in the digital era, but many people feel that at least the early digital sound was very dry and unnatural, whereas basically, when you look at digital recording, it's kind of cutting little notches in the sound. It's covering those. In vinyl sound, it's analogous. It's analog. It rolls along the same way that sound frequencies do, and many people feel it's just a more comfortable, more, I guess, listener-friendly experience.
What was it that got you interested, first of all, in vinyl? I mean, you and I, obviously, we're not, a youngster anymore. Is it due to something in when we were younger, it really appealed to you?
I think what has to do with my whole collecting thing is that my father had a fairly large collection of 78s, which according to family lore I broke most of. So maybe in a sense I'm trying to compensate by providing him with more records that I haven't been able to break. But I am a fan of 78s. I've got about 10,000 of those at home and maybe about 2,000 78s here. So I think that basically it's just a way of getting musical information in the format in which it was first released. That sort of authenticity kind of appeals to me.
Just so our viewers know exactly what our good friend Chuck Klaus means when he says 78s, what exactly is a 78?
Well, a 78 is the first flat format recording. It's sometimes called a shellac. It's basically made of the juice of a bug that has been combined with coal dust and other things, and then it becomes a kind of a baked ceramic product. The strange thing is that 78s will probably outlast LPs because of the vinyl tendency to return to its original form, which was a little pancake that was pressed by metal stampers. Those will all probably disappear within, let's say, 50 to 100 years. Ceramic-based items, as you well know from other kinds of ceramics, go on forever. You'll probably be able to play a 78 in 600 years.
Good. When you think about classical music, I would imagine that classical music in terms of an LP, what a wonderful way to record classical music on an LP.
Yeah, it's very satisfying. And the fact that there was such an explosion initially of classical issues in the 1950s when the format was first developed, I mean, there were just hundreds and hundreds of little companies putting out LPs. There was a real hunger for that kind of full format, long format listening. It's great to have pop songs on LPs, but it's fantastic, and was a fantastic advance to be able to play 20 minutes of a piece, 25 minutes of a piece on a single side at that time.
I think for people who don't know this, when you talk about 20 minutes, I mean, nowadays you can listen to something that goes on endlessly. But back in the day, and let's talk briefly about what was back in the day. I mean, are we talking about the 1960s, 1950s?
We're talking about, well, if we're talking about the turnover from 78 to LP, we're talking about Columbia. In 1948, they developed the LP.
1948.
And RCA Victor fought against that for quite a while. They were putting out little 7-inch 45s, and they did that with some success for a number of years, but it was clear that people wanted the longer format thing, so they eventually succumbed in the early 50s. So it is something that has been around that long, and these days they're still pressing LP recordings.
Wait a minute, they're still pressing wow, in this country?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, there are a number of different, I guess you could say, boutique audio firms. Rhino Records was one of the first, and there are a number of other ones like Sundazed and Four Men with Beards that are producing really superior pressings on pure vinyl. Sometimes, in the old days, they'd use maybe 100 grams of vinyl. They're using 180 grams, 200 grams of vinyl. Very thick, very beautifully crafted records with limited production runs, so the stampers that make them do not wear out as fast as they did in our day, in the day of the heyday of LP. So it's actually a better product.
I think the interesting thing, going back to what you said a few minutes ago, it seems extraordinary today, but the fact you said, people wanted to listen for 20, 25 minutes. And I hate to say this, but yes, I remember what a thrill it was to listen to something for 25 minutes. You didn't have to get up from the chair and change the record. I mean, wow.
Absolutely. You remember where stereo first came in, too. People used to sit in living rooms and listen to sound effects records of trains going from one channel to another. It was just amazing. That kind of technical advance happened in our lifetimes, and it's been compounded in so many ways.
When we talk about clarity, I am assuming there is a considerable difference between a CD and an LP in terms of sound.
Well, there are so many different kinds of masterings of CDs. There are CDs that are mastered to the full potential using analog material. There are ones that are created with new digital mixing techniques. I mean, you can get just as many great sounds from CDs and from digital technology as you could from analog technology, in my opinion. It's just what care it's done with. It's this talent of the engineer. It's the thing that they're going for in terms of sound clarity and communicability of the music or message on the recording.
Do you have any insights on looking around this extraordinary collection that is surrounding us? Do you have any insight into how the artists and the quote-unquote talent of the day felt about the introduction of iPhones and iPads and CDs versus, the great sound of LPs that we're talking about?
Well, I think that the whole musical business apparatus has been kind of turned on its ear, and it's only now beginning to recover. For about 10 or 15 years at the beginning of the digital revolution, when it came to downloading, the artists were really getting shafted. They were not getting compensated properly. In the older scheme of things, when they sold a record, they received a cut of that. For quite a while, there was this strange notion that music was completely free, and it was to be shared with everybody. And, that's a wonderful concept, of course, unless you're the one making the music. So I think it's beginning to return to a bit of a balance now. There are people realizing, if we want decent quality and not just a kind of a really cheesy, bad-sounding, fast download, we're going to have to pay for that better quality.
I thought when I came in here that we would be talking, as we have indeed, about long-playing records, but as our audience will see, there is an amazing collection of posters of wonderful memorabilia from movie stars of a forgotten era, like Jane Russell. Now, who watching knows who Jane Russell was? Absolutely incredible. Several people raised their hands. But talk to us a little bit about all these personally signed items. And I see this wonderful poster here with Gene Kelly Singing in the Rain. I mean, talk to us how you got those.
That was kind of an interesting story. I heard of the estate sale for Sid Charisse, wonderful MGM dancing star of yesteryear, mainly in the 1950s.
There's another name from the past.
And an absolutely gorgeous woman, incredibly talented dancer, a magnetic screen presence. And I went to the estate sale, and people were kind of, mainly interested in her clothing, her jewelry, and all that. But I saw some kind of poster type things in a corner and thought, oh, well, looked at them, and by gosh, they were the original Strikes, a couple of them stone lithograph posters that I know are going in some collectors' circles for like $10,000, $5,000 a piece, things like that.
Wait. $10,000 for a poster?
There are posters that are now going for about $500,000. The Mummy and Dracula, early 1930s, things for Universal, have been going for just astonishing amounts of money, and they're really riveting designs as well. In a sense, the collector's value is sort of beside the point. They are fantastic, wonderful designs that really capture in one single image the spirit of an entire movie. So I saw these things and I thought, well, they're probably a little above my price point, but I'm going to do it because they're just great graphic works.
Before we close out, give us a look into the future of vinyl. I mean, is it here to stay? What do you see as the future of vinyl?
I think in a sense it's kind of like the breakup of so many things into little segments these days. It used to be that we had 3 TV networks and that was it. And then there were hundreds of cable networks. I think once upon a time listening was in a sense sort of monolithic. You listened to LPs, but now you can listen to LPs or CDs or downloads. These things are going to continue to kind of multiply, and people will be able to find their comfort zone, what they enjoy best, what they get the most pleasure from. And to me, that's absolutely terrific.
Ah, dear viewer, as you see, I'm lost in the soothing sounds of a wonderful LP. Sounds so mellow, so peaceful, I went into dreamland and had come to the studio to do this close about vinyl. Do you own any of this magic? Until we meet again, I'm John Clayton with another edition of Armchair Traveler. Thanks so much for watching.